The day I discovered my husband bought another woman a villa, a car, and a Cartier necklace using our money was not the day I cried. It was the day I started planning his financial execution. He thought he could replace me in silence. So I took the house, the car, the custody, and walked away without raising my voice. I found out everything in an email I almost deleted. It was a simple notice from the IRS, something about a joint asset declaration. I clicked it out of routine. What caught my eye wasn't the language, but the address, a home listed under both our names, but I'd never seen that address before. The city was 4 hours away, a place he had no reason to be. I Googled it. Zillow showed a Spanish-style villa with a wraparound balcony nestled in wine country. Recently purchased, fully paid. My name was nowhere on the public record, but the IRS certainly thought otherwise. That was my first breadcrumb. The second came minutes later. I logged into our joint bank account, something I hadn't done in months because he handled our finances. There, under recent withdrawals, were payments to a luxury car dealer and a boutique jewelry store, thousands at a time. I cross-referenced the dates and locations, all lined up with the days he told me he was working late. My name is Evelyn Marsh. I'm 41 years old. We'd been married for 17 of those years. I've raised 2 kids, run a household, and taught myself to live with his cold silences and hot tempers. But what I saw that day didn't feel like another fight to work through. It felt like a line had been crossed, one I wouldn't come back from. I scrolled further, a lease for a white Range Rover, the delivery address, the same villa, then an expense from Cartier. I don't own anything from Cartier, but I know who does. Her name had come up twice before, once at a charity event, once on his phone, once in a rushed apology when he claimed I was paranoid. A younger woman, polished, empty, pretty the way expensive things are. I had nothing personal against her, until now. I closed the tabs, got up, and poured myself a glass of water. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me, because in that moment, something shifted, not just in my marriage, but in me. He'd taken a mistress. I knew that now, but he had no idea what I was about to take back. Looking back, the signs were all there. They always are. Late-night meetings that never ended in emails, trips extended because of client dinners, a shift in how he dressed, suddenly more fitted shirts, a newer watch, cologne he hadn't worn in years. I'd asked once, lightly, where the new scent came from. He said he'd gotten it on sale. The truth was, he didn't even try very hard to hide it. The villa was in her name, I discovered later, but the payments came from our joint account. He'd just used a shell company he created 6 months prior, a consulting LLC. I remember him telling me, I'm finally diversifying the portfolio. I'd smiled and nodded, proud of him, stupidly proud. The LLC had no staff, no office, no clients. It was a pass-through to buy her a life. I traced it all in a single night. He'd bought her more than a house and car. There were plane tickets, first class, spa packages in Napa, a necklace from Van Cleef that cost more than my car, and through it all, not one charge ever raised an alarm. Why would it? I trusted him, trusted that we were building something together. We were. I just didn't know it was for her. I remember sitting on the floor of our bedroom that night, surrounded by printed statements, spreadsheets, screenshots. I felt hollow, but sharp. Not heartbroken. There was no time for that. I felt alert. I could feel the air move. I could hear the fridge hum from downstairs. My heartbeat was quiet, but strong. I wasn't going to confront him, not yet. I'd done that before, in smaller moments, over a lipstick smudge on a collar, over long silences when he said he was just tired. Every time he made me feel small, paranoid, emotional. You always overthink, he'd say, and I'd retreat, doubting myself, apologizing for caring. This time, I didn't want an apology. I wanted control. The next morning, I woke up before him, made his coffee, same as always, kissed his cheek, played my role. I was the wife, after all. That was still my legal title, and I was about to make sure it meant something. He left for work like nothing had changed. But I had. I went to my desk, opened a blank folder, and labeled it Exit File. Then I started saving everything, every receipt, every message, every asset transfer. Not for revenge, not yet. This was about facts, power, timing. I wasn't going to explode. I was going to erase him, slowly, thoroughly, legally. That week, I moved in silence. I cooked his dinners, smiled at his stories, laughed when he mentioned how stressful his work had been. All the while, I was collecting every thread of the double life he thought he'd hidden. I became a version of myself I didn't recognize, but one I respected. Every night after he fell asleep, I slipped downstairs and worked through the documents. I studied our marriage agreement, the community property laws in our state, even the bylaws of his LLC. I bookmarked articles on asset tracing. I listened to divorce attorneys speak in YouTube webinars while folding laundry. I was learning the language of leverage. And while I studied, I remembered. Not just the betrayal, but the erosion, the slow fading of partnership, the way he had gradually made me invisible. I remembered our 5th anniversary when I booked the dinner and arranged childcare and dressed up, and he spent the entire evening texting someone from work. I remembered asking him if I could return to school, get my MBA like I'd always wanted. He told me the timing wasn't right. "You have everything you need," he said that night. "We're good." We weren't. But I wanted to believe we were, because for years I'd accepted being needed instead of being loved. I thought running the house, raising the kids, and making his life easier made me indispensable. But as I stared at that villa on my screen, her name in bold, paid for with our money, I realized I'd only made myself convenient. I wasn't crying, not because I wasn't hurt, I was, but because the pain had turned into something far more precise: focus, determination. The old Evelyn might have begged, pleaded, tried to win him back. This Evelyn, she was designing her exit like a blueprint. I started with small steps. I opened a new bank account in my name only and began transferring $300 every few days, nothing big enough to set off alarms. I contacted a forensic accountant under a friend's name, using a burner email. I started saving copies of everything to a secure cloud account, separate from the home Wi-Fi. I cleared my calendar for the next month. I stopped going to brunches, stopped answering personal calls. I was polite, composed, but emotionally off the grid. I needed every ounce of energy to prepare. This wasn't a movie moment. There was no dramatic monologue or crying on the floor. There was just me, the flicker of the desk lamp, and a growing spreadsheet labeled Marital Misconduct Phase 1. Each row was a receipt. Each receipt a nail. I scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney 2 towns over. Her name was Janice Wells. Older, sharp, measured. I gave her everything I had, and she didn't blink once. At the end of the meeting, she folded her hands and said, "Evelyn, if you want out, we'll get you out. And if you want justice, he's just handed it to you." I didn't smile, but I nodded, because I didn't want revenge. I wanted restoration. I wanted to return to myself. I wanted to burn the lies to the ground and walk away clean. Janice moved fast. We filed for a preliminary financial injunction under sealed motion. That meant he couldn't transfer or sell any major assets without court approval. Not the house, not the business accounts, not even the damn Range Rover. He had no idea. While he was away on another business trip, I changed all the locks on the main house and installed 2 discrete cameras. Not for him, but for her. I wanted proof of her entering my home, my children's home. It didn't take long. 4 days after he left, she showed up. Same white Range Rover. I watched her on the security feed, stepping out in heels, breezing past the front garden like she'd done it before. She didn't even knock, just used the garage code. She thought she was safe. I let her get comfortable, saw her walk through the kitchen, glass of wine in hand. She had a key to my life, but I had the footage. I didn't react right away. I filed it. time-stamped it. My attorney would use it later to show violation of family boundaries, setting us up for sole occupancy during proceedings. Every move I made was quiet, strategic. I didn't change my tone with him. I didn't hint. I didn't rage. But I was building my case like a prosecutor. When he came home that Sunday night, I greeted him with a warm smile, told him dinner was in the oven. He didn't notice the locks had changed, didn't notice that the shared office computer was gone. I had already moved every file to a private storage unit I'd rented in my maiden name. That week, Janice filed for divorce on my behalf, on the grounds of adultery, emotional abandonment, and misuse of marital assets. We requested an expedited hearing, and when the court date came, I served him the papers at a fundraising gala. I didn't do it in front of the cameras. I waited until we were leaving, slipped the envelope into his coat pocket, and leaned in like I was kissing him on the cheek. "You'll want to read that," I whispered. He looked confused, then irritated. But he didn't stop walking. He didn't read it until we were already in the car. That moment of silence when he opened the packet, I'll remember that sound forever. He didn't speak the whole ride home. I went to bed early. The next morning, he asked if we could talk. I said we would, in court. He spiraled faster than I expected. Within days of receiving the divorce papers, he started panicking. He asked me if we could handle this privately. I told him everything would go through the lawyers. That was non-negotiable. He tried to play reasonable. He said we could make this amicable. I nodded. But every message he sent, every word he spoke, was routed straight to Janice. I never responded directly again. I learned something during that time. Men like him, they don't fear confrontation. They fear silence. They fear control they can't access. And I had it now. The preliminary hearing was quiet and clean. I didn't ask for the moon. I asked for everything that was mine and everything he tried to hide. We laid out the Shell LLC, the villa, the vehicle, the gifts, and the funds used from our joint account. The judge froze all marital assets immediately. His attorney tried to argue the villa wasn't marital property because it was an investment. Janice handed over bank statements that showed the funds being pulled from a joint refinance. We had the paper trail. We had the timestamps. We had the truth. He had excuses. The look on his face when he realized I'd traced it all, like watching a magician realize the audience knows every trick. But I wasn't done. I invited her, the mistress, to a charity dinner a few weeks later, sent an invitation through a mutual contact. She showed up. Of course she did. She wore red, sat at the table across from me. She thought she was being bold, provocative. After dessert, I stood up and walked to her table. I wasn't angry. I was composed. I bent slightly and set down a sealed envelope next to her champagne glass. "You have two options," I said calmly. "You can testify in the hearing next month, or you can settle this privately. Your signature is the difference." She didn't speak, just stared. "I already have the surveillance," I added softly. "This is just a formality." She left 10 minutes later, quietly, not a word spoken to anyone else. The next morning, her attorney contacted Janice. We had a signed affidavit within 3 days. She admitted to the affair, stated under oath that the villa was a gift, that he'd promised to leave me, that she knew the money wasn't his alone. We filed the document under seal, but the leverage was public enough. When the final settlement came through, I didn't ask for vengeance. I asked for structure. I got full custody of our children. The house, mine. The car, transferred. The villa, sold, and proceeds split per the court ruling. But after reimbursement for my legal costs, the share was symbolic. He walked out of court exhausted. He tried to meet my eyes. I didn't give him that. I walked to my car alone, sat in the driver's seat, and for the first time in years, I exhaled. Life didn't go back to normal. It moved forward into something entirely new. The final divorce decree was signed on a Thursday. The court granted me ownership of our primary residence, my car, a portion of his retirement accounts, and, most importantly, legal authority over our children's education and health care. He fought hard for control, not because he wanted to parent, but because control was the only language he spoke. He lost, not with drama, with paperwork. 2 days later, I returned to the house with a locksmith, changed the codes, reset the security system, and removed the last of his boxes. He wasn't there. He never asked to be. The house was quiet, and for once, it was mine. I kept what mattered, sold what didn't. The leather sectional he insisted on, gone. The framed golf photo from Pebble Beach, donated. The paintings he never let me hang, my mother's old watercolors, finally went up in the stairwell. It wasn't just about redecorating, it was about reclaiming space. I drove the Range Rover once, just once, parked it in front of my attorney's office for the final signing. It wasn't me, really, but it was symbolic. I handed the keys to a consignment dealer the next day and used the funds to open a college trust for my daughter. She didn't know the origin story of the account. She didn't need to. My son asked once why Daddy didn't come around anymore. I told him some people don't know how to love the right way, but that we were okay. Better, actually. I meant it. Rebuilding wasn't glamorous. It was steady, small, daily. I found a part-time role with a nonprofit that helped women re-enter the workforce. I told them I wanted to work behind the scenes. They nodded, understood. I liked it that way. One evening, I came across a box of old journals. One entry from 3 years ago stopped me cold. I'd written, "I don't recognize myself anymore." I read it twice, then I tore out the page and burned it. Because I do now. And she is stronger than I ever imagined. I sold the villa 6 months after the divorce finalized. The buyers were a couple from San Francisco, newlyweds. They asked if I had ever lived there. No, I said, but I paid for it. The proceeds, after fees and court-mandated divisions, weren't life-changing, but they were clean. I used my share to pay off the remainder of our mortgage and start a quiet investment portfolio in my own name. Nothing flashy, just steady, silent security. Freedom isn't loud. It's not champagne on a yacht or a post on social media. It's walking into your own kitchen without dread. It's knowing you're no longer pretending. I stopped wearing my wedding ring a week after the final papers came in. I didn't put it in a drawer or a box. I dropped it into a river during a weekend trip alone, not out of anger, just finality. It sank without resistance, just like the version of me that once accepted less. People often ask if I'm bitter. I'm not. Bitter is loud, acidic, clinging. I'm clear. I don't speak to him anymore. He sends the occasional email about school schedules or tax forms. I respond when necessary, always through the co-parenting portal our attorneys established. He signs them, "Thanks, now," as if gratitude might rewrite history. It doesn't. I've rebuilt slowly, not from scratch, but from truth. My children are thriving. I laugh more. I sleep through the night. I know where every dollar I spend goes, and I don't need permission to spend it. I didn't burn everything down. I turned off the gas, packed my bag, and walked out. He took a Mistress. I took the house, the car, and my power back. If you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or replaced, remember, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And when the time is right, reclaiming your power doesn't require permission. Share this if you've ever had to rebuild yourself in the shadows, stronger, smarter, and on your own terms.